Hello and welcome to the Content Advantage, a talk show about content for content professionals. I'm Scott Abel, and with me today is my co-host, Megan Gilhooly.
Hey Scott, how you doing? Happy New Year.
I'm great. Thanks for joining us, and Happy New Year back to you. I hope you had a great holiday break.
Thank you. Thank you. I did. And today we're going to talk about video. Now, we all know that when it comes to customer experience, video can be an amazing boost for our customers. But we also know that producing and maintaining, managing that video can be really problematic and cost prohibitive. And so just when you think about the frequency of content updates, localization, translation, the need to really keep it up to date and fresh is really, really hard to do at scale. And so today we've invited Mark Hellinger, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Videate, to talk to us about how technology is being used to overcome some of these hurdles that we have with making and managing videos, and just really talk about how AI comes into play. So welcome to the Content Advantage Show, Mark. Happy New Year to you.
Mark, thanks for having us.
Very good. So just to get started, Mark, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you sort of came to be connected with the subject for today?
Yeah, thanks. I live in San Diego, California, and as you said, I'm with a company called Videate, and I've been around the technical communications and customer education space for about the last 15 years, and so I've had some direct experience with trying to figure out how to reuse content, repurpose content for different purposes, and I got involved with Videate about 18 months ago when we started the company, and we decided to go try and solve a problem that had never been solved before, which is how do you use artificial intelligence and automation to try and make videos at scale. So it's been an interesting journey. We're a young company, but we're kind of excited about solving a problem that we're first to market at here. So.
And Mark, we're excited about that too. But before we continue the interview, let's start by telling our audience members a few things, especially people who are new to the Bright Talk platform or the Content Wrangler webinar series. First, today's show is being recorded. You can use the same URL that you're using to watch the live show right now to return later to watch a recording on demand. We can't see or hear you, so we don't have access to your camera or your microphone, so you don't have to worry about that. You can ask a question at any time by using the Ask a Question tab located underneath your webinar viewing panel. It allows you to click on a little button, pop open an editor, and type in a question for us. Those questions are queued up for me in the background. We cannot answer you back in a text, but I'll know that your question is submitted, and I'll try to take as many of them with our guest as possible and as time allows. Also, there's some additional content available that you can access in the attachments and links section of your webinar viewing panel. There's some content from our sponsor, as well as content about today's presenter and the topic that we're going to be talking about. On the way out the door, we'll ask you to give us a rating of 1 to 5 stars. This is a rating of the quality of the content of today's show and what you thought about it. There's also a little field in which you can type your comment and why you gave us the rating that you did, or to share some feedback of some other type, and we'd hope that you do that if you feel inclined to do so. Also, today's show is brought to you by Zoomin software. We'll learn a little bit more about them, and there's some content about them in the attachments and links section for right now. So let's take it away. Megan, why don't you drive this show toward its completion, and we'll start right here with Mark.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. So, Scott, you and the Content Wrangler did some research on video. And you found, of the people that you surveyed, since 2017, 11% of those surveyed said they created video documentation. Now, last year, it had jumped up to 50%. That's a huge jump in video production. That's awesome. So with half of all of the tech comm teams out there that are saying they produce this documentation, we obviously want to make this productive and easy and great for them. So just to start out with, knowing this data, Mark, what do you think is spurring the increase in adoption of video?
Good question.
That's a great question. And, you gave some great statistics just about tech comms, but certainly it's a little bit broader than that. I think we had read somewhere that 82% of all internet traffic by 2022 is going to be video. So there's this massive traffic flowing with video. And as it relates to software and particularly enterprise software, buyers have become conditioned to go look for videos. And it's not just when they research products. It's not just when they're using it. People go to your website or our website and they start to look for videos. That's their preferred medium. And certainly, the modern workforce, all the millennials coming into the workforce and younger people coming out of university are conditioned to watch videos. That's how they learn. And, it's not exclusive. There are a lot of people who, have a preference to read. From what we've heard, executives that have been surveyed prefer to watch videos over reading. And, studies consistently show that, videos impact user experience and customer experience is your area of expertise, Meg. And so it's not about should we have written documentation or web-based documentation or videos. It's really you have to have both. And I think that technical documentation groups and customer education groups are kind of in a unique position now with this, growth in video to take video to scale, and they haven't been there before.
And I guess there's probably a little bit of Googliness about this topic, and I only use the Google brand name in this particular situation because they're the dominant search engine that most people use to find content. And it seems like Google's rewarding brands for putting their content together in one place and making it easy for Google to surface up those answers in one convenient landing page. So we also want to, of course, provide video documentation right next to the traditional documentation that we offer, so Google can grab those little snippets and offer those up as the answers to the question that people are asking. Which kind of begs the question, Mark, video content has so many uses and can be useful in so many different situations and can solve all sorts of other challenges. Are there any specific industries where you see video documentation is playing maybe a more important role than it used to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So certainly this idea of producing video along with the documentation in tangible goods or physical goods has been around for a while. If you buy a product, whether it's an automobile or some manufactured product, there's kind of an expectation now that there's video accompanying the product documentation. In the digital world, all of the things you just said are really important here. And in software in particular, SaaS companies like Zoomin software or Videate, or many of you on the phone here, on the webinar here, it's not just about the user experience. It goes back to what you said. It's about search engine optimization. When people go to look about your product, having video available improves SEO. It improves all of the things that you want to do to get yourself ranked first when you're promoting your product. So it's become, it's gotten off the ground with physical goods, if you will, and certainly consumers are used to it. But in the B2B space, in the enterprise space, people are expecting the same things that they get in their life now. The consumerization of the enterprise has kind of come. And so, and it's not just after they buy the product, it's throughout the entire life cycle from acquisition to retention. That's what's really driving this in the digital space, if you will, the digital products.
Thank you for sharing that. Before Megan asks you the next question, I'll just share a small factoid about my holiday experience this year. So as is the tradition with Christmas in the United States, there's an exchange of packages and gifts from people that you love and care for. And I received a gift that had some documentation, which would not be unusual. And what I found was really interesting was on the front page, and I can't remember which brand of product this was, but on the front page, they had labeled the documentation with this title, Traditional User Manual. And then in huge font right underneath it, it said, you can find the video for this on our website here. And they were basically saying, here, we have to give you this text content for those of you who need it. But we know you probably just want to watch the video. I thought that was really interesting. So just an aside.
That is interesting, and it goes back to something Mark said earlier, which is that you have to have both. You can't just have video, and you can't just have docs. You have to have both, right? Because certain people just want to read. Other people just want the video.
Yeah.
And clearly video is very, very, very important. And so when you think about how you manage both of these things and you keep them in line, it sounds daunting. But what are some of the things you found, Mark, that keep companies from producing videos to go along with these great docs that they're producing?
Yeah, you know, and again, there's somewhat of a separation between physical goods and digital goods. So Videate, you know, specializes in digital products. Okay, most of you would know that as SaaS-based type of products along the way. The challenges are enormous. Video production is time-consuming, expensive, and the problem is that it's never been easy to produce at scale. It's very much relied on individual humans recording things. On top of which, it's not trivial to translate, videos. Finding native speakers who have, expertise in your products and so on. So as we've moved into this world of the cloud, software releases are quarterly, they're monthly, they're more frequently. I've met one company in the last year who has releases less than quarterly, meaning twice a year. Okay, is all they can do. They happen to be a huge company because they have a huge platform. So you can't keep up with manual recording video. So a small change that you make, a little, you move the icon from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen in a piece of software, or you change the name of a product, or you found a typo in your documentation. All of those things means you have to re-record the video. It's impossible to splice and get all the synchronization and things done.
Right.
So that's what users expect when they buy your product, that the video they're watching is up to date. You can't create more video debt, as we like to call it, every time you change the product.
Yeah, and Mark, this is a great opportunity to segue just for a second, because it seems like the move toward creating structured, intelligent content, which is something that a lot of our viewers may be participating in their companies or have heard about and thought about doing in the future, was mostly designed to solve the problem of being able to scale up and produce multiple deliverables on the schedule that they need to, and be on time and be consistent. And of course, it slowed them down. The more that the companies grew and the more that they needed to communicate, the more documentation they needed to create, the more cumbersome it became. So I appreciate you explaining that. Could you also give us a little how does the technology that your company makes, how can it be deployed to automatically create and update video from software documentation? It seems like that's a big challenge. And could you tell the readers how that works?
Yeah, no, it is a big challenge. And thankfully, I'm surrounded by a bunch of very brilliant engineers who figured this out. But, there's two secret ingredients to what we do. One is artificial intelligence, and very specifically, that's an overused term, but we use something natural language processing, which is a machine learning technique. And the other is process automation. I sometimes say robotic process automation, but when you hear the videos, we don't want you to think these are robots speaking. These are very natural voices that come out. So essentially, the workflow is this. We take in documents. They can be a technical document, Megan mentioned DITA, or we'll come back to some other explanations later. Or for those of you who do customer education, they're used to just sitting down and writing a video script. You're going to show this, you're going to click here, and you're going to say this. That's kind of a scripting technique. So we take that and we transform it, using this AI into speech. And the way that happens is using text-to-speech technology, which comes from Microsoft and Google and IBM and Amazon. We didn't create all of that. But think about it this way. We take in a document and we read the document just like you would read it out loud. And as you're doing that, we log into your software, just like you were sitting down at your desktop manually recording a video, except we do it through automation. And then we move the mouse around your screen just like you would if you were sitting there. So we're literally doing this in the cloud at scale.
That's amazing. So you're not just taking content, shoving it into a video format, you're also trying to equate it to where the user is in the journey that they're taking with the software product itself.
Yeah, yeah, we are synchronizing the text with the navigation of your software, and as we're doing it, converting the text to speech using the text-to-speech technology. You know, this is stuff you use every day. You listen to Siri, you listen to Alexa, you listen to all these voices, and the quality of this stuff, we made a big bet, and I'll come back to it later, that this stuff was going to, you know, reach maturity. And as you listen later, I think you'll see it's there now. So
excellent. Thanks for sharing.
Mark, I think this is an interesting time to bring up that I asked of you. I kind of challenged you, right? I gave you some good data content that I know is good, and gave you access to our tool. And I wanted to see kind of how this worked and how this really looked. I was maybe a little bit skeptical, but you know, I believed that you had it done. So can you show can you kind of tee this up and show the demo that you went through? And I just want everyone to know that I sent him stuff at, I think, like 8 in the morning my time. And by 10 o'clock in the morning, he had 5 links coming back with 4 different voices in a different language. So anyway, if you could show that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen here. I'll do that. And share. So tell me when you can see my screen.
All right, we see your screen.
We see it.
I'm going to make it a little bigger in a second, but the way that our product works is we ingested those documents, and we'll come back to talking about DITA works. It's very easy with DITA, actually, and most of you in technical comms know a lot about that already. And here's a list of different voices we just randomly picked as we did this. So I'm going to start with one. I'll show you the first example. This is, you know, just about a minute. We're going to listen to it right now, and we're gonna play. This is actually Zoomin software. We've never seen Zoomin software before. We logged in, made sure that our automation could work, and then we produced the video.
Zoomin Analytics is a collection of dashboards that display data about the way your audience is consuming or interacting with your content. They don't just inform. They offer actionable insights which measurably improve your performance and the effectiveness of your content. Select to view one of the Zoomin Analytics dashboards from the left panel. The dashboards are arranged in a hierarchy of folders, which you can open. Each dashboard has its specific filters based on the data displayed within the widgets. Click over the edit icon of a single filter to select the parameters.
Let me return back, and just to quickly show you this. If you don't like Amy, who's a British voice that is one of them that's there, you can choose these voices.
Zoomin Analytics is a collection of dashboards that display data about the way your audience is consuming or interacting with your content.
Excellent.
They don't inform.
And one more thing before we run, I wasn't going to run both of those, but the beauty of this is that because it starts with text, it's very easy to translate now. So here's another one.
Zoomin Analytics es una colección de paneles que muestran datos sobre la forma en que su audiencia
Yeah, and so I think you can see that there's a great opportunity here to automate this. That was all done through automation. No human being was involved in the production of that video.
That's super cool. And I wonder if you can just speak to a little bit to how the translation comes out. Do you have any quality metrics that you've gotten back? Because I know that can be problematic with large content teams.
Yeah, you know, the fact of the matter is we're a young company. We've got customers and people are going through those processes now. But we can tell you that you're not trying to translate, you know, 10, 15-minute videos all at once. Much like your technical documentation, the key to this is to chunk your content down into small consumable parts, okay? So all the stats show you that at about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, engagement falls off any kind of video anywhere on the web. So we recommend that when we take your product documentation, we break it down into small snippets, And the translation process that goes along with it works pretty well. We have a native plugin. We just ran that through Google Docs, and we had somebody review it. And typically, that one came out very clean. But typically, you'll find a very small percentage of words that don't come across, because we're really translating little phrases at a time. You're not trying to speak, you know, you're not reading a book to someone. You're speaking and you're moving, and then you're speaking and then you're moving. So, you know, we get about, the translation processes tend to get, you know, about 90% of the way there. Certainly if you use translation memory tools, you'll get a lot further along, but even off-the-shelf translation things are getting the stuff, you know, to 90% plus. And you do need a native speaker generally to review things before you publish it.
That makes a lot.
So it sounds like the input, the best input is something highly structured, but you can work with less structured content if needed. Is that right? Or really should you have data content?
No, we've talked about data. The advantage of data is that it's already semantically marked up. You know, and this audience knows a lot about technical communication. We work with Google Docs, we work with Word, we work with any XML format. Data obviously is the standard, and we work with Markdown as well. What we need is a consistent writing style. So we literally can take Word docs that are written, you know, or Google Docs that are written as a narrative, as long as you follow a pattern to say, how do you navigate? Because what we're looking to do is say, when the person said, click on the gear icon, we have already figured out where the gear icon is on every web page in your application, and we know where you are, where we need to go to. And if you notice the video, we actually don't do it in a completely straight line. We kind of introduce some chaos to it to make it look more human. So the key to this is to start with content that's just consistent in how it's written. Certainly when you use XML, and in particular data, it's already semantically enriched. And that just, what that does is it accelerates the machine learning. So we can dump the docs in and it just gets faster results, but it doesn't mean you have to have data or you have to have XML. You just have to have decent docs.
I think what we're trying to impart here in the audience is that if your content is already semantically enhanced, you've augmented it with additional information that can be used as instructions for Videate software to understand more about your content in order to provide a better experience with that video that's output. And that otherwise you'd have to kind of use learning to assess what's in the content instead of declaring exactly what's in there. So I hear what you're saying, Mark. The more metadata you can give the system, the smarter the system can be. Is that how you'd say it?
Yeah, yes, absolutely, Scott.
Excellent. And you know, this is probably a good time for us to mention that today's show is sponsored by Zoomin software. And Megan could tell our audience a little bit about what Zoomin software does and how it relates to tackling the content challenges that they may have.
You bet. So Zoomin's platform ingests technical product content from any source. And so we actually can relate to this idea of if it's structured, a lot of times it's easier for you to handle. So you take it from any source. It could be video, it could be data content, it could be just a Word doc. And no matter how it was created or published, we pull it into a Zoomin cloud, and then we deliver it out to a documentation portal, out to your community, out to a customer service site, and even inside the product itself. And so in this way, customers will quickly and easily find the answers that they need. And at the same time, your organization can increase adoption as well as reduce the costs of both producing your content and reducing the costs of supporting your customers as they self-serve.
So to be clear, can you serve up the video content next to the audio content?
Absolutely. You can serve up the video content inside the data content or next to or wherever you need it to be.
Okay, yep. That's perfect. All right, well, thanks for explaining that. You can learn more, by the way, audience members, about Zoomin software at, as you'd imagine, zoominsoftware.com. You can also check out the attachments and links section of our webinar viewing panel, where there's some content provided by the Zoomin marketing team, as well as some information about their products and links to their website. Definitely check that out. All right, so let's continue this interview. For the audience members that are watching, the show was originally scheduled for 30 minutes. Mark, we have some questions from the audience that will allow us to go a little bit over. Can you stay a few minutes extra?
I'd be delighted.
Excellent. For the audience members who may need to leave at the half-hour mark, don't fret. If you return to the URL you're using to watch the show, it will magically turn into a recording, and you can catch up with the program wherever you left off. So Mark, here's a technical question for you. One of our viewers wants to know how are voices generated? And I don't think they want the college answer for that necessarily, but is it machine generated? And if so, do they subscribe to them? How is it happening?
Yeah, great. So, so the technical answer is there is a standard called SSML, which is speech synthesis markup language.
Right.
Okay? And SSML is a XML format, but it's used in everything you interact with already, Alexa, all these other things. So basically what you do is you give a string of text to a text-to-speech service like Amazon Polly, okay, or Microsoft Cognitive Services, or IBM Watson, as it were, or Google's text-to-speech engine. So you're basically passing a string to those engines. Those engines now have hundreds and hundreds of voices, not only in English, but in a growing library of languages around the world that are dialectic. You know, in Spanish, you can pick US Spanish, you can pick Latin American Spanish, you can pick Spanish from Spain, and in English, you can pick British English, you can pick American English, you can pick dialects from all around the world as well. We basically use that technology. And what's really cool about it is in the last year, both Amazon and Google have introduced what they call a brand voice option. It's a little expensive right now, but the fact that they introduced it, what it does is it allows you to record your own voice, okay? And you're going to create your own voices and be able to use text-to-speech technology that speak in the voice of the person you want it to be. So that's why we bet on this. It's good now. It's so good that most people can't tell the difference between these computer-generated voices when you really listen to the best of them. There are some robotic voices out there. Our job is to find the best ones with inflection and timbre and the things you need, and they're excellent today. But pretty soon you'll be able to do your own voice.
Cool.
Excellent.
Just another question that I think is big. I imagine this actually helps with accessibility, but somebody is specifically asking about accessibility requirements. And do you provide the options of synchronized audio, video, electronic documentation, and native closed captions and audio descriptions?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking it, whoever asked it. We didn't show this, but we certainly be happy to, and there's some examples on our website, and the website link is in the attachments, where you can turn on and off closed captioning, okay? And so this is actually going to help dramatically with your accessibility requirements. And so think about closed captioning. A lot of people will say, well, we made a video and we can turn on closed captioning, but how about this? You make the video and you have an English version of your software, okay? Then you want to record, you want to see the closed captions in English. But a little later, you can translate it into Spanish and see the English version of your software with Spanish captions. So even a Spanish speaker, even though the video is not being recorded in Spanish, just like you're watching Netflix, you can choose the subtitles that you want to see. Or you can later go and make a native video of your software if your software is in another language. So the ability to turn on and off closed captions, that's kind of, you get that for free because we started with the text. That's what drives the speech. And
yeah,
it really does help with accessibility.
And can you speed up the voice so that folks who are used to, listening really quickly because they aren't seeing stuff, can they listen to it really fast?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of video, first of all, the technology supports that. So we can speed things up, slow things down as you like. I mean, even simple things where how often we pause at the end of a phrase, we can control in the software as well. But you can do all of that as well. And we think more and more people are going to do is they're going to start having their own kind of custom video players embedded into applications like Zoomin software, where the user gets to define their preferences. I like Amy's voice, and it's a British voice. It sounds better to me. I like it, but I'd like to speed it up or I'd like to slow it down. And I'd like to have other options that have to do with what, mouse pointers appear, or how often, what colors they appear at. So this idea that products like yours, Megan, are actually going to be able to provide a personalized video experience is really the direction we're heading in as well.
Mark, as we get deeper into this, you mentioned that there's a markup language that helps with the expression of the verbal content that was derived from the text that the machine learning crawled and tried to process.
Right.
That to help us make the electronic voice sound more human. And what I mean by that is we used to think of markup purely as a publishing thing. I can mark up the content and make it do or look a certain way. And so now are we saying I can mark up the content and help it sound or mean a certain way when it's read loud audio through audio?
Yeah, actually we did it for this demo that we just showed you, and we went past it so fast, but the words Zoomin software in the Spanish version came out Zoomin, because that Z sounds like an S in Spanish.
Yeah.
So the way we tackle that technically is you can use what are called phonemes. All of you who studied phonetics in elementary school remember this. And for companies that have names of products that need to be pronounced a certain way, one of our clients is their product comes out of a Latin word, and they always want the phoneme to be pronounced the one way, regardless of which language it's recorded in. So what's a little different technically than just when you publish things and transform things for publishing is that with voice, there's a number of techniques, but the simplest example I can give you is a phoneme. So we went and looked at the words Zoomin Analytics, ran it through our phoneme converter, and plugged it into the system so that when we produce translated videos, regardless of which language it comes out in, the word Zoomin is always pronounced Zoomin. Exactly.
That's
awesome.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. 2020 has been a really big challenge for many. Before we take some questions from the audience and hear what challenges they've been having, how has COVID-19 impacted demand from you to produce video at scale?
It's been an interesting year. Prior to COVID, the most video production was done by very large companies or very small teams. So, we have talked to people who have, really nice video production facilities in offices, maybe multiple offices around the world. They have quiet rooms, high quality microphones, the right lighting, all of those kinds of things, no noise. So now you go home and people are recording videos at home and the dog is barking, the leaf blower is blowing, the kids are home, and it's created a great challenge for a lot of people. And how do you get multiple people to participate in this? Because small and medium-sized companies are often highly dependent on subject matter experts to be part of the video process. And so what COVID's done is it's accelerated the need for technology like ours. I mean, we literally started doing our first POCs in the first quarter of last year. And post-COVID, we started to see people say, video is a must-have now, in addition to product documentation, and we need a cost-effective way to do it. So I think that COVID has been we've been a beneficiary of the COVID crisis because people see that technology is the solution to producing video, not sending human beings to manually record it anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting. And one of the reasons that video maybe wasn't as popular before is because people were in offices and didn't always have the best headsets to be able to actually listen to video. Whereas now they're sitting at home or they have their fancy headsets like I have. And so people can actually turn on a video and listen to it at the same time. It's really interesting.
One more thing, sorry. For those of you who are in customer education on this call, I mean, the world shifted from instructor-led training, particularly for software products, where you sold seats and people came to your classroom. COVID created this massive immediate need to do virtual instructor-led training, but it's also created this huge demand for on-demand education. And you cannot do software on-demand education without video. And so that's not going away. There's been a permanent shift in client success and customer education post-COVID that's driving video, and people are scrambling around trying to figure out how to solve that problem.
That makes a lot of sense, and I would say we are not alone in that. Megan and I have seen lots of products that have been successful because of the self-service nature of COVID, has forced us to have to be less reliant on other people and more reliant on ourselves. So we have to find out ways to do this. And while it may have been a nice to have thing before COVID, it's, I think, becoming a you have to have it kind of thing. So why don't we one of the things we have to do is help our audience understand your products and the time that we have remaining. Could you answer a few questions real quickly? Megan and I will pop through some of the questions from the audience, but try to give them a brief answer. And if you must, you could invite them to follow up with you or to read some content that you provided that might have some additional value. So the first question is follow up on the accessibility topic we talked about earlier. If the videos are produced with AI, in other words, no human interaction, can you interrupt the system by providing additional secondary audio description track when the video is generated?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me be clear about that process of interrupting. So not only, I mean, while they're auto-generated, you do have the ability to explicitly instruct our engine on things you want to do. Those could be special effects you want to do, like zoom to this part of the screen or highlight something or put a red box around something, just like you do with manual screen recording tools. So the idea that we can layer on additional things that you need, whether it's for accessibility reasons or just for customer experience reasons, is how we built the technology.
Yeah, I can see that being a style guide requirement in the future. Like if a brand says every time we showcase, let's use that word as a brand word. Let's say that when we talk about a product and we want to showcase it, we have it zoom in, for example, and then make it bigger. And then we could say every time you encounter that tag, use that function. So I think what you're saying is you have a finer level of granular control should you need to, but the end goal is to encode the content with all the instructions so you don't need to jump in and manually intervene. They also ask if audio descriptions of the video provides information about actions, characters, scene changes, and on-screen text. Audio description supplements the regular audio track of the program. So they're basically giving us the reasons why they want to do that. Let's take a different question. Megan, why don't you grab one from the audience that you like?
Sure. The one that I like is, I'm going to reword it.
Yeah,
They
please.
talk about editing after the fact. And I guess the basic question is, does your software ever get it wrong? And if so, can it be changed?
Great question. So, yeah, we do get it wrong sometimes. In fact, for those of you who are familiar with single source publishing or XML authoring or any kind of, transformative thing, markdown or otherwise, where you publish something, okay? Our process is exactly the same. We start reading your docs and we keep going and going and going. And then at some point, if we can't disambiguate something, we're going to send you a message that said, hey, we can't figure out what you mean here. You need to tell us a little bit more to coach us along, okay? And that just means that anytime you want to make a change to a video, you can either upload you can go into your doc, make a change, your Google Doc, your XML or whatever, dump it back in and say preview, just like you preview your HTML or you preview your PDF like you did for a long time. And when you're ready, you can say publish, and the publish will produce an MP4, and we encode in other formats as well. So the idea behind this, it's really critical, is you make a video, either we can't figure it out or you found something you don't like. You want to change it. You don't like a word. It didn't sound right to you, or you just decided to use a different phrase instead. You just go in and edit the text or dump back the new text in, ingest the text in, preview it again. And it's that same iterative process. And it's really important when you find typos, which I know there are no typos in any product.
No, there are no typos. We don't allow.
And Mark, when you say we, you're talking about machines, not you, human beings.
No, we do it. The engine does it when it does it, but you have total control through a user interface to do this yourself. This is a service that we provide up in the cloud. It's a software as a service product, but every user has their own login that they can, edit, change, run, preview, do all the things around. In fact, we've got 2 partnerships we're working on right now. One of them was with somebody who has an XML-based component content management system because they see it as an opportunity to just add a preview option to your existing platform. You want to produce a PDF? Great. You want to produce HTML? Great. You want to produce a video? Great. And that's how we see the future. You control the editing, and anytime you want to make a change, you can make explicit changes that you want to make.
So that begs the question, are you setting your company up to be purchased by a bigger company and kind of it folded into their technology? Or do you think maybe there's a model where you offer this as a service and then they can plug in and subscribe to your engine? I don't know. I'm not an angel investor.
Sorry, I think I hit my mouse there and Lupe started speaking. We think it's going to be both ways. We're experimenting with both. There are certainly people in the tech pubs and education world who are looking at how to leverage our technology as part of their platforms today. The majority of our clients are direct end users that we work with. I think it's a stage of where we are as a company. Where this all goes in the future, you never build a company just to sell it, but
you never know. Exactly.
Yeah. So there are a lot of questions about the inputs again. And so I just want to make clear, people are asking about DocBook and ASCII doc. So even though we're talking about DITA, really any structure, it sounds like, makes it easier for your program. And somebody asked specifically what it was I gave you to create that. I don't have it to pull up right now, but it basically was just a really clean DITA book. And you took the first 45 seconds and that was it. Some of it was concept, some of it was procedure. So you took a nice chunk of it. So hopefully that answers a few of the questions that are coming in. There's a lot of questions.
Thanks for marrying us. Sorry, Mark, I wanted to give you the opportunity to offer some valuable information to people who have a couple more questions that are not related to the inputs. Yeah. So first thing I was curious about, does Videate sell software, or are you a consulting company that provides this service?
Sure. We are a software as a service company. So we're a SaaS company. We're a software company. You sign up for a subscription. The subscription, just like you sign up for a subscription with Zoomin or any other piece of software out there, we have an onboarding process to help you understand what you need to do and how you can augment and use the platform. But we're not a consulting service. We sell a platform, you subscribe to the platform, and after you're onboarded, it's self-service. You do it yourself.
This viewer says voiceovers take different times, and what they're asking is, how do you link the speed of the video to the voiceover speed? And I wonder if that's a function of your software as opposed to a decision made by a content creator.
Yeah, that's the magic of the engine. So that's kind of the secret sauce behind all the things. We patented all of this technology. And that's really one of the key things, which is again, we didn't play enough video, but what we had to figure out is when we have to move the mouse from point A to point B in your application, and we have to speak a phrase, depending on who's speaking it, whether it's Amy or Matthew or Lupe, they speak natively in different lengths. And in fact, if you watch these videos, every video is of a slightly different length because we had to figure out how to synchronize the voice with the movement. So we will speed up or slow down the navigation through your software depending on what needs to be done. And that's some of the trick we built into the technology, and gets better every month.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'm a DJ from a former life, and a nightclub DJ at that, playing dance music. And part of the dance music industry is synchronizing other versions of songs and creating remixes. And in order to do that, you sometimes have to speed a voice up and slow the music down in order to make them work. So I think it's the same kind of process there, right? It's about the final length of the video and then what needs to go in there and how do you distribute it in a way that seems human.
Yeah, sometimes. Exactly. And sometimes I oversimplify what we do because it's just very natural what we do. We figured it out technologically, but think of yourself sitting down at your desktop using any of the brand name screen recording tools that you know, and you are sitting down, logging in, moving around the software and speaking, except we've done it through automation, you know, and we had to figure out how to optimize it. And, you know, of course, it'll get better and better over time, but we've got people now in production doing this. And, you know, Scott, you could probably do it better than with your DJ background than most people could. But what we've discovered is there are very few people in the enterprise who can actually do it well and consistently. So technology seems to be right for the approach, you know.
You know, I learned something new about Scott in every show. So that's interesting to learn about. But nonetheless, somebody asked about, so because this is in the cloud, can it be accessed when you're offline?
Yeah, so here's the deal. We produce MP4s at the end, okay? And those, we are not your content distribution system. Ideally, you want to put this into something like Zoomin software to distribute your content, okay? But we also produce a whole bunch of other formats for streaming and things like that. We have a lot of great video talent in the company. So the idea is that just like you produce your PDF, or just like you produce an HTML package that you're going to deploy for technical support or customer education, or just like you produce a SCORM package if you're publishing e-learning content. We produce MP4s. They can be stuffed inside of a SCORM package and run through your learning management system. They can be put into a documentation portal and customer experience platform like Zoomin software. And of course, they can be run offline. So, but you control the distribution model. We're just taking the raw materials and turning it into finished products.
Excellent. Here's a couple of questions about Videate real quickly that you might be able to answer. Does the software offer a library of stock images and video for conceptual ideas, or is it just for demonstrations?
We don't offer stock images per se. You could, of course, use any images you want in the production of the product. So like, it's very typical when someone makes a video that you'll have someone speaking and a slide will pop up, or a slide with an image will pop up. That slide with an image can come from any library that you've told us you want it to come from, or can be made automatically by Videate. And the other thing I want to say, this is really kind of, I forgot to mention this because we were trying to compress our original script here, we capture screenshots as we're making the video. So if you're a tech writer, think about this. Here's version 1 of the software. 2 weeks later, again, somebody moves the hamburger icon from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen. Every screenshot is now invalid. We make those screenshots. We capture them as you're going. And if you link them to your tech docs, you've just eliminated all of the work to replace screenshots in your tech doc. So we can work with external images or create images from the content as well, Scott.
That's brilliant.
That's
and
awesome.
Can a viewer of today's show get a free trial or interact with you in some way to kind of have the experience that you gave Megan? And before you answer that, I want to also put out a kind of, I'm marrying a few questions that we haven't answered into one, just to kind of get you and Megan to see if you would commit to it. Some of the viewers seem to be interested in the process that Megan and you went through, and so they wanted to know if you might write about or make a video that shows how you took Megan's content and did what you did with it, so that the viewers could better understand that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do a blog.
Yeah,
We're on it.
Sounds like a Friday.
We're on it.
Me.
Your Friday blog. Yeah, you know,
Yes.
so first of all, back to the free trials. I've said this to everybody we've talked to. We spent about a year in stealth mode from when the company got started to last July, writing the software, filing the patents, doing a bunch of POCs with some customers who were very gracious to allow us to work with them.
Sure.
We launched the public site last July, 6 months ago, literally. Okay. By the end of September, we had a bunch of very well-known, one or two very large, publicly traded software companies already producing videos with the software. But in every case, it's always a free trial. We are not ready to tell you we're 100% sure any software, anything will always work. That would be a little bit disingenuous. So what we like to do is tell everybody, here's what we need to do. Let's talk. A free trial is a pretty simple process. We sign an NDA, you send us some sample docs, and you give us a login to your software. Okay, we need a username and a password to a sandbox, to your free trial, to wherever you produce your tech docs or you record your customer education videos. And we're happy to do them because that's the best way for us to demonstrate to you that it will work.
One last question, if you can answer it quickly, about the translation process. One of our viewers asked, does the software that you've made work on the translated documents themselves, or the translation of the video script, is that a separate task and is done later and then converted with text to speech?
So you create the initial videos in whatever your base language is. That's, in many cases it is English, but whatever that base language is. And then you run that script or that doc through a translation process, either internally in the product or externally using any of the well-known translation memory products and services you're all familiar with already. So you export the English, you import your language, you preview it, you hit preview, and it records it in that language. So the answer is very simply that the captions come along for free. The closed captioning comes along for free. What you're really doing is there's a workflow, just like you translate your documents. It's 100% identical, okay? Send it out, bring it back in, and again, instead of producing a PDF or HTML, produce a video. That's how it works.
Well, thank you, Mark. It appears we're running out of time as we find ourselves many times. Megan and I have we want to ask
yes,
Mark,
we do.
then we have time allowed. So thank you for joining us, Mark, and making time to be on the show today. And thanks to the audience for being here too. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both very much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And to the audience, before you sign off, go ahead and find the Rate This tab. It's in your webinar viewing panel. Give us a 1 to 5 star rating. Let us know what you liked about the show, what you maybe didn't like about the show. Help us get better for you.
Excellent. I second that as well. And to the viewers who joined the show late and wondered, what is the web address for the Videate company? I can help you out a little bit. If you look in the attachments and links section of your webinar viewing panel, you'll find links to the software company's website, as well as a link to our presenter, our guest today's LinkedIn page, and some additional content from the sponsors and content about Videate that would help you understand and reach out to Mark where you can schedule a call and find out whether he can help you make some video documentation. But before you go, I encourage you to be on the lookout for an invitation to our next Content Advantage show. It's scheduled for Tuesday, January the 19th. We do these shows every 2 weeks when we are hoping to chat with Sarah Winters, who you may know as Sarah Richards, about the emerging discipline known as content design. We're still in the works trying to make sure that this meeting can be set up on time. And so look for an email from us inviting you to join us to see Sarah in action. You'll learn a lot about the emerging discipline of content design and be able to ask questions. So until we see you again, please stay safe, be well, and keep doing good work. We look forward to seeing you on another upcoming Content Advantage Talk Show. Thanks for joining us, and thanks, Mark and Megan.
Thank you.
Ensure your customers find the answers they need with Zoomin. Bring together product content from all teams and sources to deliver a unified, personalized content experience. Check us out at www.zoominsoftware.com.